Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
What an exciting guest I have for you today. Her name is Julie Steelman, and as a toddler, she dreamed of traveling to Africa and knew the only way she could make that happen was to make her own money. This ignited her quest to create financial freedom and have cash flow for life. She earned her way out of the corporate world at the young age of 47 by generating over $100 million in online advertising. Now she is the CEO and founder of the Financial Freedom Institute and is known as a financial visionary, wealth coach, and selling expert. Her intriguing and innovative approach to helping pioneering entrepreneurial women change their financial destiny has resulted in her clients being able to design sustainable business models, generating healthy cash flows, and building wealth. She's also authored the highly praised book, The Effortless You, Effortless Yes, and has a 25-plus year career in iconic corporate brand sales. She uses her master's degree in spiritual psychology to translate her award-winning wildlife photography into teaching metaphors. Welcome, Julie. You're a Renaissance woman.
Hi, Gayle. It's so fun to be here with you.
Well, I think people are looking to be financially free. There's no question about it, because that allows them to pursue the other things that they really are interested in. When money becomes your only focus, that's a problem. But you bring the spirituality in as well. So let me start off by asking, why is money your thing?
That's a great question. It goes back to that little kid. It really, really does. I remember watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom every Sunday night with my family. And, I was transported to Africa with all those videos of lions and leopards and elephants and giraffes and zebras. And, as a little kid, I felt like it was that first moment when I had that sense of getting a direct instruction from the universe that said, whatever you do, you must go to Africa before you die. And I started considering that. And in my problem solving way, that's part of my personality, was kind of like, I live in a family that never leaves their zip code and doesn't have passports. I'm going to have to make my own money so that I have my own time, so I don't have to work, so that I can go and no one will stop me. And I don't have to get anybody's permission. And it really kicked off this whole lifelong adventure of, how do I create financial freedom for myself? How do I have my own say, make my own money, manage my own money, keep my own money, and do what I want with my own money? And it really was a driving force. It's a totally true story. And now here I am, X years later, and it's become a body of work, a life's work, to really understand money. And for me, I think it's one of the most co-creative spiritual relationships that I have. And I want to teach women how they can create that for themselves, because the complaint across the board is, I want the lifestyle I want to have. And that's what drove me, was I wanted to have a particular lifestyle.
Well, yeah, that goes back to not working to live, but living,
Yeah.
It's really working to create the lifestyle that you want, and
Yeah.
that makes a big difference. I mean, I've always been successful in terms of making money. That was not the issue, but money was never my driving force. It was always loving what I did. And if I didn't love it, I stopped doing it. So,
100%.
How did you come to know what you know about money, wealth, and prosperity? I guess
Slogging my way through the corporate world. It was
But
really,
I
it was,
yeah, it's I guess a lot of hard lessons as well.
oh yeah. It wasn't an easy thing. Like it's, you're at the one end of meeting a goal, right? Or an objective, and then all of a sudden it doesn't feel as big of a deal, but it was a big deal. It's really been lifelong. I grew up, it started with I had a father who actually kind of financially nurtured me, and I didn't know that that was weird or that that was unusual, right? And I had three older brothers, and he was pretty much like, I'm going to give you everything I got. I'm going to empower you in every way that I can. I don't see you as being any different than your brothers in terms of being able to be successful. But here's the deal, I'll pay for college, but once you graduate, don't come back to the pond, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, and there's a little bit of fear of God in that, right? It's like, if you buy a house, I'm not bailing you out. If you get fired from your job, I'm not bailing you out, meaning you need to save money, you need to plan for that. Life can throw you curveballs. So that was the foundation. And then I was in college and I realized that I was stuck in the hamster wheel of just enough money. Like I had enough money to live, to eat, but I couldn't have any fun. And that lifestyle thing came rushing back in. And that's why I decided when I graduated to get into corporate sales. Boy, and then I really got hit because back then women weren't in that role, right? And I'm around all men. Plus, there's all those inherited beliefs of our society, of our families, of being a woman that hit us, right? Like, oh, you're not good. The famous one that was imposed upon me was, you're not good with money. You might make it, but then you'll spend it all, or you'll fritter it away, or you don't make good decisions, or you can't be trusted with it. And it wasn't okay to talk about it. My parents were from the Depression, and it was like, if you were paying your bills, you were doing good. And then past that, nobody discussed it. And so, in their little bridge parties was kind of like, you can't talk about it. And so there's this imposition of, we're not, women as women, we're not supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to ask for it. We're not supposed to want it. And we're not supposed to link up any of our dreams to it, because that would be not feminine. We would be aggressive. We'd be perceived as too big for our britches. And it would go into all the things that really aggravate our family, friends, and our inner circle. And it invokes jealousy, and you're too big for your britches and all that whole stuff, right? So I had
It's
to.
interesting that you're bringing all this up because
Yeah.
Your history kind of sounds like my history, except that it wasn't. I didn't have a brother. Actually, I had an older sister, but
Yeah.
my parents, it was very interesting because there was no talk about, well, we really didn't have a lot of the people that I knew. I was
Yeah.
the least well-to-do, but my parents insisted on education, even though I didn't want to go to college. They insisted on education, and I was kind of the black sheep of the family because I was on the entertainment side of it. But my
Yeah.
parents always said, we'll give you the education, but then we're done. You've got to have a
Yeah.
job when you
Yeah.
finish. And so, of course, I did something they didn't like. I moved to, 3,000 miles from home or 1,500 miles from home, because I left where I was, which was the north, and came to Miami 5 days after I finished college. And I said, well, you told me I needed to do this on my own. I took my own. I had $200 saved. I took that money to get to Miami, and my mom wanted me to take the train. I said, I'm not taking the train and taking 2 days to get there. I'm flying. And, but that was it. I knew I had to make my own living.
Yeah.
But I never worked in corporate America, Julie.
Right.
I always was an entrepreneur. And so I was in business at 21 and never looked back. So it's interesting that you went through what you did, because
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game. And I'll tell you one of the reasons, and I don't know whether this was good. I just said, I don't want to do something I think is stupid. And I know if I work for somebody else, they're going to tell me to do something that's stupid, and I don't want to do it. So, so anyway, to make a long story short, I decided, yeah, that's for me. So anyway, continue on with your saga. But I do want to ask you, why do you think now
Yeah.
is the time for a women's wealth revolution?
Um, I think it's time because all those old stories, and like you were motivated by I'm gonna do it my way. I was motivated by a lifestyle because I wanted to go to Africa with nobody telling me I couldn't go. That says a lot about family dynamics, right? And it's like
Right.
so women are over the hump of that they need to work, right? And how they work, but so many women are really doing work that is legacy work, that is soul work, that is super important to them. It's mission driven work. And so it's like I believe that there's a lot of talk about the patriarchy, there's a lot of talk about the money systems, and it's masculine motivated and all that kind of stuff, and that may be true, but I believe that as women, all the doors are being blown open to us right now. We have tons of permissions, we have tons of opportunities, we have this ability to rise. But yet there's this one barrier that I see so many women that are brilliant and intelligent and they can't get out of, is this trap of what their beliefs are about their relationship to money. And they've never had to actually work through it. And they've either been married or they had family or they get by, but there's very few that are really affluent, that are really have more than enough for the rest of their life and can choose to do, to give, to live in whatever way they want to. And when I believe in my heart, and what is driving me in this is that and I'm one who's already aligned my vision and values with mission and money. So I know that the way to move forward on my mission is to fund it. So women haven't really made that parallel yet, and they get stuck in the never enough money trap. I have women around me who make 6 and 7 figures. They have very low net worth. They might own a property, but if their business were to blow up or they were unable to be at the center of it, the income's gone. And so we can't keep living like that. And I truly believe that if we want to topple the patriarchy, it's not to go after them, but it's to get really smart and really powerful and really empowered in our wealth and our money lives, because we've been ignoring it, we've been glazing over it, and we haven't invoked our self-responsibility around it. We haven't really been in good self-care about it, because then we would develop a system that's very inclusive. And if we become the ones who are affluent and in power, we would actually change the nature of the way the economies and the systems work, because that's what we care about.
Well, how can women, you said that if their business blew up, they'd be, almost destitute. How can women create sustainable models then that don't drain their year after year? I mean, why are they not having more than they have?
Yeah. It's a great question. I'm actually in the process of developing a course to resolve this specific thing. So I think there's some, basic business essentials that are missing. And, everybody talks about profitable pricing, but I think that the pricing models that they've been taught or bought or told about they're more of a copycat kind of a model, or this is what the industry will bear kind of model, versus really focusing on, what do you really want your lifestyle to look like? What are the billable hours within that time frame? Like how many weeks a year, how many months a year, and how much during a quarter, right? And really mapping that out. What do you want your lifestyle to look like? Like I travel once a quarter. I know that. So my business is built around that cycle. And my pricing is built around how available I actually am. And then inside of that, I build packages so I don't bill by the hour. But then the other thing that's greatly missing in women's businesses is there's a huge shift here, which is I think women just price intuitively, or what they think the market could bear, or what feels like everybody else is charging. And so they have a little bit of confidence because, well, so-and-so charged that, instead of looking at what's your model. How much expenses do you have? How many investments do you want to make? So you add your expenses plus your investments, whether they're personal or they're professional or they're wealth-based investments, to how much you want to take home. That becomes your sales goal. They don't understand how to set proper sales goals, that the money that they make accounts for all the line items on the spreadsheet. And I mean, I can't tell you how many clients I've had over the 10 years who don't have cash flow problems, but they have profit problems. They have managing money problems because they haven't learned how to price correctly, and they haven't learned how to plan correctly, and they don't know how to set a sales goal properly and then build a program that would actually satisfy that sales goal. And so every year there's a new enrollment cycle. They're in dread, they're in burnout, they don't want to do this. They're so mission driven. The common phrase is, well, I'm not money driven, but I'm mission driven, right? And it's like, I'm just going to ignore the money part of my business. And it's like the whole word business means that you're managing all those points where cash flow touches it. And so this big, women haven't been supported or educated really properly, or in a way that's feminine and accessible to them, right? And so I think that's the problem. It's complex, but there is a solution.
Well, you mentioned burnout. Why do you think so many talented women get burned out from this business? Is it because they're putting too many hours in? Is it because they're worried about, am I going to make it? I mean, what are the clues?
I think the clues are that every time we encounter the start of the new year, you start to droop energetically, and you're like, I can't believe I have to do this again. If you say things to yourself like, a friend of mine actually says this. She calls me all the time and she's like, I work so hard and I know what I'm doing is really good and it lands really well with people, or people are getting incredible results, and I should be a billionaire. So there's this out of balance between what you're actually receiving from your business personally. Like, are you getting paid? Is it making more than enough? Do you go into the new year with not enough cash flow to carry you through, so that your enrollment cycle is kind of, you look at your business as a set of hurdles instead of a flow for a year. There's a big energetic difference in that. And so the models that these beautiful women with these heart-centered, mission-driven tasks are running sprints, and they're getting burnt out. I call them power surges, and they create what I call drive-by cash flow as they go launch a program or a product, and they make all this money, and then there's a time when that money runs out and there's nothing to sustain them or carry them through, and then they go back through that cycle again, and by the end of the year they've done that 5, 6, 7 times and they're tired, but there's nothing left to show for it, right? So there isn't this future focused accountability in what they're doing, so their models aren't sustainable, and every year it gets a little more tiring and it gets a little harder. But they're so mission driven, but there's this ignoring the money. And when you ignore the money, it's really the lifeblood of forwarding your mission. And we have to bring that back into proper alignment, so then you can see how to create sustainability, because it's possible.
So what's the most powerful shift that entrepreneurs women can make that would increase their cash flow? Is it a different form of pricing? Is it a different kind of client? What kind of thing would make a big difference?
Yeah, I actually think it's deeper than that. Yes, to all those things. But I think there's one single thing that's a game changer. And this is my body of work and what I go out and talk about and share, and has made the biggest difference with my clients, like within 2 weeks, is a shift from the focus in the world, especially entrepreneurs, all the stuff marketing to may have a 6 and 7 figure, whatever, is that the focus is on how much you make. And I'm telling you that the biggest game changer is to focus on how much you keep. And when you focus on and no one's talking about that, but I am. And when you focus on how much you keep, because I want to show women how that model works, when you focus on how much you keep, it already assumes that you have more than enough and that your model is built around more than enough. So then pricing starts to make sense. Your amount of billable hours given the lifestyle that you want to create starts to make sense, that your business is built around supporting that lifestyle, that what you take home is what you focus on as the net result. So again, I have 6 and 7 figure clients that have humongous cash flow, but can think of one client who came to me and she was generating around $500,000 in cash flow and she was keeping $10,000. That's not okay. And that's That's not okay. Like,
Even,
why would you do
even
that?
I know that. Even I know that, Julie. That is
Yeah.
not okay. So why was that though? Let's find out the reason for that. I mean, when you do a $500,000 in billing and then
Yeah.
only keep 10,000, is it because your overhead is too high? Is it because you're spending carelessly? What was the reason for it?
In her particular case, one of the reasons was she was putting together this humongous event, which was really well received and a lot of people attended. And then she sold into high-end programs from that. But the pricing of those programs didn't account for the cost of the event. So she was looking at it from the perspective of the event costs X, and I have cash flow from last year to pay for it. But when I sell these new programs, I'm not generating enough cash to pay for next year's event. So her prices were actually not profitable based, and she wasn't looking at her numbers. So the biggest issue really was women don't want to look at their numbers because they think that's going to make them feel bad and that they're then going to judge themselves for all the mistakes that they've made and the things that they don't really know how to manage because it's never been brought to them in a way that's accessible. But it's a complex thing, and there's a lot of things that are built into it. But it's not this. It's really a factor of you're focusing on how much you make. So I run an event. I made close to I made high six figures from that event. I'm successful. I'm doing well. But when we started doing her financials, she wasn't doing well. And so that then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. So do I adjust my expenses? Do I adjust my prices? And that's where the creativity really comes in, which is why I personally love numbers, is your business has a sacred math. There's a story there. It's going to tell you what to do, and it's going to give you choices because there isn't just one solution. And so what's the solution you want to pick? Do you want to stop doing the event? You have a big enough list to keep marketing your programs. Do you want to how do you want to pivot? Right. And so that's the thing is the other piece of it is women just don't want to look at their numbers because they don't know how to do it in a way that is uplifting and supportive.
Wow. Well, I can see that people are, would really benefit by working with you. So let's tell our listeners first of all, how can they get in touch with you, Julie? What's the best way to reach you?
Right now, there's a few things that are under construction, but the best way is to go to juliesteelman.com. So it's JuliEsteelman.com. You can also go to chatwithjulie.com and set up a little discovery session, and we can talk about if this is something that's you want to get into further or right for you. And I always am full of really quick ways to give people a change they can make right away that'll help them. And that's kind of why I talk about financial visionary is like I can bring the spiritual aspect of it to it, but also this big business experience. And I think there's just some business essentials that haven't been proposed or shown to women in a way that really give them even bigger access to the things that matter to them. And this work is just important. And that's what I have to say about that.
Well, that's fabulous. That is fabulous. Now, I don't know if you have a gift that you'd like to offer, or your chat with Julie is a chance for them to get to know you. Is there something that you'd like to offer to our guests?
Well, the chat with Julie is a free little mini session if you want that. On my homepage, there's also the Blooming Rose quiz. And so you can take this fun little quiz. And what I've done is identified 5 stages of wealth for women from women's perspective, and that there's these gaps that we have to span. There's belief systems, there's tools, there's shifts that we need to make mindset wise, skill set wise in our businesses that'll take us from one area to the next one and help us grow our wealth and our financial freedom. And so when you take that quiz, I think it's maybe 10 questions, you immediately get a link to a page that's loaded with resources that'll help you bridge that gap and get to the next level.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, folks, Julie is just a wealth of information. And you can see she has her perspective really down pat. And I cannot tell you how many people look at the numbers they bring in, but don't look at what the net is at the end of the year. And that is the most important thing. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And that is so important. And people have got to understand that that's part of it. Well, we only have about a minute left, Julie. So is there something that we haven't talked about that you want our listeners to know?
Oh boy. I feel like I just want to say to everybody that no matter what your feelings are, money is a tool. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have this negativity around it that it's been associated with. And if we get this one right and get our money houses in order and get our businesses set up to build wealth, we will have a whole new kind of power on a planet that considers money as a natural resource, and it will take us into our destiny farther and faster.
Well, you heard it here, folks. This was Julie Steelman. Go to juliesteelman.com, take her little quiz, find out about yourself. Thank you so much for being with us today, Julie.
Oh,
it was a real education.
I loved this. I would love to talk to you more.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.